Good evening, everyone. We are live. We're back for the coffee chat show. There's 3 of us tonight, so who knows what will happen. We will.
Way to start.
I did not want to do this by myself, so I have corralled them to help me. Notifications are going out right now, so we'll just wait a couple minutes. If you're here and you're watching, say hello. Tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear. We are tonight. We're going to talk about what happens when the unexpected happens. What happens when you are planning for something, like you're engaged, or you think you're going to get a job, or you think you're going to get an apartment, or I don't know, you think some John. My husband is our first contestant, folks. He's watching from the other room. Thank you, John.
Hey, there he is. Good. Hey, it works.
So what happens when the unexpected happens? What happens when you're planning on something and then bam, all of a sudden the door shuts in your face? We're deviating from talking about the book. We've been working on the Success Principles book. We're kind of feeling like we need to liven up things a little bit with some more conversation that has nothing to do with the book. Although maybe something about this is in the book. I haven't dug around in there to see. Anyway, we had an email from somebody and they had this happen. They were expecting to get a job and it didn't happen. And so now they are just find themselves kind of struggling to stay positive from, not having things turn out the way that they expected. So Jen's here from Colorado. Hey, Jen, good to see you. I think you're on vacation. I think I saw that she was on vacation.
Nope.
Anita, is it about grief? No, well, I mean, in a way, Anita, because sometimes when things don't turn out the way that we planned for them to turn out, it is sad and upsetting. So I suppose in a way, yes. Anyway, so Tracy,
it could be something so simple as, I don't want to belittle anything that people are going through, but I mean, it could just be like, oh, I didn't get the puppy from the dog shelter that I wanted, or it could be I lost my marriage, just fell apart. I mean, it could be really big or small, but the circumstances are still the same. We still can have sadness and feel overwhelmed or just let down by things not working out the way we had hoped or planned or wanted.
I think, I don't know, do we need to introduce, obviously I don't need to introduce myself. I feel like Karen in the middle here works for me with me, for me, whatever you want to say, at Staff Agency. She is one of my managing directors, or one of our managing directors. And then Tracy takes care of all things with Kim, all things Working Coach Mom, page, group, all of that. And has also been my best friend for a bunch of decades.
Long time.
Over 3 decades. Yes. So that's who we are. And so what happens when it doesn't happen the way that you want? My thing is always, because I'm a prayer, right? So I'm always like, okay, if it's mine, it's easy. And if it's not easy, then it's not mine. And if a door slams shut in my face, then that just means it isn't for me, or it wasn't for me. And sometimes that's really hard. I mean, at one point in my life, it was a 10-year relationship and an engagement and a whole companies together and a whole thing. And it blew up in my face, not by my hand. And so that was, and then that person married someone else, boom, some person, that was all Tracy remembers. That was something.
It's tough.
That was something. So that definitely for me was probably the biggest, doesn't turn out the way that I thought. I had a whole plan and I didn't really have a backup plan. But then again, that brought me back to Vermont, and I reconnected with my current husband, whom I had actually known for 20 years. And it's like there was a series of events that at the time that thing blew up in my face, those things were not even on the radar. I had no idea what God had in store for me. I just trusted that there was a plan, even though I couldn't see. So I think for me, that's a big part of it. If you're a faithful person, no matter whether it's in the universe or God or the Buddha or whatever, if you believe that there's something bigger or higher than you, I think it makes it easier to stomach when the door slams in your face. Because I'm not sure how you navigate that. Like if you don't believe that there's a higher plan or a better plan or something. I don't know, Karen, what do you have to say about all that?
For me, like I work a 12-step program, so we talk about our higher power, and our higher power is meant to guide us. Like, for me, when I lost my business in 2019, I had to be an employee, and then I met the person I needed to know to meet Noelle. And you know what I mean? So like my life is great now, and it's getting better and better every day, but it was really shitty in 2019. And I was like, this is never going to get better. I could barely get out of bed for a while, and that's not me. But it's that higher, like it's supposed to be that way. It just sucks in the meantime.
Yeah. I mean, the in between, I think it's Alanya Van Zandt or whatever however you say her name. She was somebody that Oprah recommends, but she has a book called In the Meantime. And that she talks a lot about that, like from where you are to where you want to be or where you want to go. Like what happens in there when you're kind of slogging through, the bullshit and the crap, like what happens then? And how do you handle that? I think that's I think how you handle yourself in that. Well, okay, if we go by the law of attraction and we go by what our energy is, and that our energy is our set point for like what we're pulling in, then obviously however you handle that in the meantime is, really telling for what you're going to pull in next. And yay, there's
We're here.
So I think it's how you handle yourself in there, because when the door slams shut, I mean, I always say, sometimes we've posted like when the door slams shut, don't go banging on it. Because because like when that all happened with that relationship and everything like that, I really had to catch myself, right, to not like beg and plead, and just because I was so and since then there's been an apology given that I thought I would never get, and Tracy was here when that happened, and that person actually came and met my current husband. And so a few years ago, this person actually, came to the house for my birthday celebration, and Tracy was here and met my current husband and apologized to my son and to me. And what we got to see though is who was over there, and who was over there is not what I had thought was over there. So it was very clear to me 5 years later why the door slammed in my face. But at the time when the door slammed in my face, it was not clear at all. And I felt very put upon, persecuted. Like, what did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? A lot of that. And there was a lot of crying and, a lot of praying and a lot of just letting go and just trusting that there was a bigger plan. And like I said, if I wasn't a faithful person, I don't know how easy that would have been, right? Because that was like 10, 12 years of my life dedicated to this particular thing. And then that was the longest that I had ever been with or done anything. So for that to just disintegrate in front of my face was really something.
I want to say also, Noelle, that it's really important when the thing that we think we want, or, you know, when it doesn't work out that way, to not become a victim to it, but
Yes.
to be a victor, right? To
Yeah.
change the language that you're putting around it, and to not like call all your friends and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, can you believe, you know, because that just, it makes it like a pig pen, right? It's all around you all the time. And so to just be a victor, you know, victory in it, and look for what you're supposed to be seeing. If that's not it, then what is it? If that's not it, then what is it? What's next? What do you say? There's something better, something
This or something better.
Yeah, this or something better. Like, okay, if
Right.
this isn't it, then something better. I'm ready. I'm waiting, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And then the case of the person, you know, that emailed me about the job that they didn't get, like, we don't know, you know,
Right.
we don't know why that job went away, and you just don't know, because God could be saving you from something. There could be something far better for you that you won't see unless, you know, unless that happened, unless like years later, you can turn around and go, oh, that happened because that happened because that happened because that had to happen and that had to happen. But like in the moment, you can't see any of that, right? So it's just like you're standing in the middle of it going, what the F happened? Why is this happening to me? So you have to just like have that level of trust, whether it's like Karen said, in a higher power. Tracy and I happen to be God girls. It could be the universe, like whatever your belief system is set up around, just believing that there's a bigger, better plan, and that you don't always know, like you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't know what you don't know because you're not ready to know it. Right. And so, like, I'll give you just an example. About 6 months ago, I redesigned all the stuff for Fortunato. I thought, like, it's, you know, because I got John Maxwell certified and I'm all this stuff. So I designed all this new stuff, and now none of it feels right to me. So I literally spent thousands of dollars to redesign everything.
What a bit.
And now I just redesigned the logo, and Tracy's seen the new logo. I haven't shown Karen yet because I just got it today. But now it feels right to me. And it's going to be simpler and cleaner. And the tagline for Fortunato is driving change. That's the new tagline. And I realized that what we do here is we drive change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And in everything that we do, whether Karen and I are working with teams or executives, or Tracy and I are working with ladies, or moms, or whatever it is that we put our hands on, we're driving change. And I didn't even see, like 6 months ago, I didn't see that. And so I had to do what I had to do to get where I had, because I don't think I would have went from what we had to what I have today without the middle piece of like fine tuning what we used to have to what I thought we're having to what we're really supposed to have. And so sometimes.
Yeah. Going back to the success principles, he talks about taking action. And that always reminds me of Noelle. Taking action is like just throwing it to the wall, and if it sticks, it sticks, but you wouldn't know if you didn't throw it to the wall and you couldn't get to that step. That's an important part of if something doesn't happen, just keep taking action.
I want to say also that when something doesn't happen, it really can be devastating. It can be overwhelming. And I went through an experience in my life, very traumatic and very like hyperventilating kind of breathing. Like I can't. And so what I had to do was just do the next thing. I just had to do the next thing. Every single day, what's the next thing? Get out of bed. What's the next thing? Brush my teeth. What's the next thing? Like seriously, if that's where you are, because it's just too much, just keep moving, keep looking forward, keep doing what you have to do, and get out of bed, because there is something better waiting. And like Noelle said, sometimes you can't see it. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. But as Noelle said, looking back, you're like, wow, who knew? Okay. All right. I'll do that again then. I'll go through that again, because this was so worth that. because I became a victor and I became an overcomer, and because I just kept going, and then you get to create something different, and it can be beautiful.
And sometimes, like Tracy's saying, the traumatic, like there's been a couple of things for me and a couple of things for her, like catastrophic, like people sometimes don't recover from, like those types of things. And you really just have to do the next, like the only thing is the next thing.
Yeah.
The only way out of that is the next thing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when something like that happens and you're trying to figure out a plan, and you think you should have a plan, and you think like you should be in a good mood, or you think, oh my God, I have to work myself out of this, whatever, like honest to God, the reality is that's not how it happens.
Yeah.
The reality is you do the next thing, and then the next thing leads you to the next thing, and then the next thing leads you to the next thing, and then before you know it, you're a little bit better, and then a little bit better, and a little bit better, and a little bit better.
Yeah.
And lots of times people think that their feelings, like your feelings don't matter. And what I mean by that is when you are a person that's driven, or you want to accomplish a result, or you want to have something happen in your life, what matters is what your intention is about what's happening. That's all that matters. And then how you feel in the moment, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. And I don't mean that in the way of like stuffing your feelings so that you eat too much or make yourself sick or you blow up at somebody that you shouldn't blow up. What I mean is that if you want to drive change and drive a particular result, and on Monday you wake up and your ass hurts and your eye hurts and your hair isn't the right, comes out wrong, and I don't know, your kid's a pain in the ass and you're late for the bus or what, and then you feel all whatever, how you feel about that. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is do the next thing, get the next thing done, drive to the result. So you can cry your way to the result. You can be angry as you're doing the action. So you can be pissed. You can be annoyed and aggravated and so feel your feelings, but you don't let your feelings stop you. Yep. Right. And what I mean is like when someone, is not going to work, right? Because, I don't feel like it. My boyfriend broke up with me and I'm sad. It's like that's terrible. And I'm sorry. And like, we have stuff to get done. So let's, so there's a time to do the self-care thing and let yourself like have it and feel it, but we don't wallow in it and we don't get stuck in those traumatic circumstances. For Tracy and I, mine happened to be car accidents. Hers was a person very dear to her died unexpectedly, and she was very much there when it happened. And so we felt our feelings in those things, the despair, the terror, the fear of it. And after that catastrophic car thing for me, it's happened to me 3 times in my life. The third time was in 2018 when a truck and trailer jumped the lane. Driving after that was something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I forced myself to drive the rental car. I had to have a rental car because my car was totaled. And I forced myself to drive from the car place back to the house, which is a good 35, 40 minutes on the highway. And I was terrified because it was only like 4 days after. But I knew if I didn't get in the car, I might never get in the car again and drive.
Yeah.
And there are times still today when I'll go out and drive and I see things that aren't, and I just go, no.
Yep.
But when I drove the car home, you know, every whatever demon in my head, voice, like whatever, it was all, and I cranked up, like, I don't know, We Will Rock You by Queen or something like that. And I just drove and I cried and I was afraid and I thought I was going to throw up. And I just drove.
Yep.
And as I drove, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. So when I say your feelings don't matter, that's what I mean. I felt the feelings. Obviously, I still have them, right? But it doesn't matter. I'm
Right,
gonna
doesn't
do.
stop you. Yeah.
I'm gonna do what has to be done, and that's the difference between a powerful, badass MF and a person that's a victim. That's the difference.
Yeah.
We feel all those same things, and we have all that same chatter. It just doesn't get in the way. Tracy, want to say something about that?
Yeah. So my sweetheart lived in Vermont, and my bestie lived in Vermont. My son was going to school in Vermont, and I was in Massachusetts. So when he passed away, I still had to go to Vermont to see my son, and I still wanted to go to Vermont to see Noelle. And I'm telling you, getting on that highway, like Noelle's saying, when you experience something that changes the trajectory of your life, and you choose to continue with your life, and you choose to rise above the disarray, and you choose to be stronger than the feelings, you have to just keep on going. And I'm telling you, like Noelle said, and some of you may experience this, it just gets you at your core. For me to get on that highway and pass that exit and just keep on going and see all the things that reminded me of what could have been. So, you know, when you have something in your life that what could have been and it didn't work out that way, you have to create new patterns and new habits and new conversations. Like Noelle was saying, you can do this, create a mantra. Something's waiting, something's better, something's new. Because that is what will continue to move you forward. But because if you don't and you just sit in the mud puddle and you just keep sitting in the mud puddle and you wonder why all you got it on you is mud. Well, it's because it's up to you to take yourself through, because you can walk through and you can come out on the other side. You have to do the work, and you just have to keep believing that your intention is to progress, to move, baby step, next thing. And feel that hyper, feel that sadness, or I called it joy in the sadness. I was looking for the joy in the sad. I was sad, but there was joy. Yeah. Karen,
yeah.
I think you have to also go through it, and that's the most painful part. When you try and bypass that and do the next best thing and cover it and move on super quickly, it's always going to come back.
Yeah.
Right. I always think of my aunt. She lost a boyfriend of hers in her early 20s in a motorcycle accident. 25 years later, married, kids, breakdown, hospitalized, never dealt with it. You know what I mean? We hear that all the time. I always think about that. And sitting through it is the hardest part.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying about, like, you can feel the feelings and keep doing the next thing.
Even if it's just brushing your teeth, getting out of bed, going to the office, whatever it is.
Where you get into trouble is when you try to stuff the feelings, or when you sit in there and invite them in for a scone and a tea and a coffee, and you get in the chair and you're like, oh my God, it's so horrible. What happened to me? And all of that. And that's when you're really going to get yourself stuck. And that's when, you can really sink into places that you don't want to go. And how to keep yourself. And again, if someone has a medical condition or they're medically depressed or any of those things, keep in mind, we are coaches. We are all 3 certified coaches. We are not counselors. We are not psychotherapists. We are not giving you any medical advice here. We are talking about people that are on a personal development kind of growth plan mindset. That's what we're talking about. So if you have issues, with the past and you have some really deep work to do, please, this is not for you. This is not advice for you. You guys need to get professional. You need people that can walk you through that deep stuff. Mm-hmm. So I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, I want to say also what you were saying earlier, Noelle, about the person, somebody was saying that they didn't get the job that they thought that they were going to get. You know, we don't know, right? We don't know why was the job too small? Was the job too little? Was the person not reaching for the stars? And or is somebody working in the foreground? They heard, oh, she's looking for a job, and they're doing something over here for her. And so this job had to fall apart. So the 2 days from now, this job can show up. I mean, you just don't really know what's waiting.
Right. You don't know what you don't know. Red Betty's saying she can so relate to the joy in the sadness. And I've kept on keeping on in the face of past adversities. But wow, that gut punch is really rough at first.
Oh.
Yeah. No question.
Yep.
It'll knock you on your ass.
Acknowledge it.
It'll knock you to your knees. And my best analogy for that is a palm tree, because palm trees bend, but they don't break. And in a hurricane, they will bend all the way to the ground.
Sure will.
They snap back up. And so that to me is sort of how we have to be, right? We have to be like a palm tree. You've got to, sometimes you're going to bend and you're going to bend and bend. You don't break.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's the thing, is you just refuse to yield. And when there are adverse circumstances or things that are unpleasant that are in front of you, when you refuse to yield, it will break and shrivel up and go away.
Yeah.
Because it is like the David and Goliath thing, right? Until he walked up to the giant, right? And just decided that his God was bigger than Goliath.
Yeah.
And then it all turned out. And there's so many stories, not just in the Bible, but all over the place of things of that nature. Face your fear. Mom used to say, fear is just false evidence appearing real. And she also said, fear is just thinking thoughts that scare you, which is true.
Yeah.
And, faith and fear actually can't exist at the same time.
Yep.
So if you're entertaining, a faithful thought, you can't it's physically impossible to at the same time entertain a fear-based thought.
Right.
You can't entertain both of those things at the same time. So if we were to leave you with a thought about what happens when it doesn't turn out the way that you want, my closing remark on that would be, trust that you don't know what you don't know, and trust that you can't see everything, and trust that if anything is really truly yours, it cannot be taken from you.
Yeah.
And that's a Catherine Ponder principle that I learned when I was very young, and I really have held to that, for most of my life.
I like that.
If something really truly belongs to you, including a person, and in the case of my husband, that is the truth, because 20 years ago we met and I thought he was my person, and it didn't turn out. Yet 20 years later, we were returned to each other by an insane set of circumstances that Tracy watched and witnessed the entire time. He couldn't have written that or planned for it or whatever.
Nope.
But the truth of the matter is, we were for each other, and the timing was just not right. And when the timing was right, it all was fairly simple and happened very quickly, which Tracy watched. And I think she thought in the beginning that I might be losing my mind. But it all turned out really well. So that's my closing advice, if I were to give you some.
Mine would be to make sure to be grateful even in the muck, to be grateful for when the things fall apart, to be grateful for what you have. It just opens up a whole space of calm and peace that can come, to you just from gratitude.
I like that. Mine is, if it's not meant to be, you will find your way. And recently I've been practicing comparison as the thief of joy.
Joy.
That's a big one, especially like if you don't get that job and you're comparing yourself to others. That is the thief of joy.
Absolutely.
Enemy's playground.
Yeah. And to Tracy's point, you know, when you practice gratitude and you're grateful in every moment, and you know, Esther Hicks has Abram Hicks appreciation and gratitude rampage. So when you can go on, and we just took a trip, you know, to the beach, and we did that. We did it on the way down. We did it when we were there. We did it on the way back. It was the best trip that we've had. You know, because we just decided we're not complaining about anyone. We're just going to do that. And that's kind of how we ran it. So
Nice.
a great way to, you know, run your life as well.
Nice.
We'll be back on Monday night next week. I will remember to post an event because our initial live viewership is way down because number one, we've been off. Number two, nobody remembers that we changed to the nighttime. This is Laurel's fault because she forgets to create an event. So I will do that. And I don't know what we'll talk about next week, but we'll figure that out ahead of time and we'll let you know. In the meantime, you can visit us at thecoffeechatshow.com. And you can also, if you have stuff that you'd like us to talk about, or you have questions, or you want us to riff on a topic, feel free to email me at noelle@fortunatopartners.com. You can find it in the About section of the Facebook page. You can also find all the info on thecoffeechatshow.com, which is scrolling along the bottom right there. Handy dandy.
There it is.
All right. We'll see you guys. Have a great week.
Have a good week.
Fabulous. Bye.